Get ready for the next event of the symposium, which every year is a highlight of the symposium, because the debate, which is coming up always generates a lot of heat and light. Anybody who's been to a previous symposium knows that this is one of the highlights. For those of you who were with us in Cape Town in 2015, 2 years ago, you will remember the electric performance of the debate moderator, Khalil Shariff, who is the CEO of the Aga Canada Foundation. That was a debate to remember and set the standard for any future debates. And we liked it so much, we got so many comments about that, we invited him to come back again this year and be the moderator for this debate. So I will leave it to Khalil to give you the details of the debaters and the resolution, but for the time being, as you're filling out your survey, please welcome to the stage Khalil Shariff, CEO of the Aga Khan Foundation and debate moderator extraordinaire.
Well, thank you, Roger. Not enough for applause there, sorry, Roger, but thank you. Come on, I think Roger's been doing excellent work. Excellent work. You have not been an easy crowd to manage, so Roger, we are in your debt. I am delighted to be back at SoFi because I never get invited back. So it's a very special privilege, and of course, a particular privilege to be able to help bring our time together to a dramatic finale. And let there be no mistake, my friends, it will be dramatic indeed. Now, look, we've had a spectacular 2 days of learning together. But let me tell you, without a hint of exaggeration or overstatement, that you are about to experience the most spectacular display of intellectual agility, insight, and wit of your adult lives. That should get applause. I know this because we are about to go through now a collective transformation. Up till now, we have had an experience marked by empathetic listening, collegiality, open-mindedness. All of those things are now to be dispensed with summarily, because now we are entering into the realm of debate, where what we will prize is fierce wit, rhetorical flourish, and even some mild intellectual browbeating. Now, I'm mostly joking, but only mostly, because it is true that we're gonna end SoFi 2017 with a different mode of learning. The goal for the next hour or so is not convergent discussion, but divergent contest. We're not gonna be seeking the narrow common ground that we can find, but we're gonna try to explore the entire terrain of the topic in front of us. We're not going to politely paper over our disagreements. We're going to expose them. We're going to revel in our differences. We're going to outline them and throw them into sharp relief. That is the purpose of our next hour together. Our debate topic today is as follows. Disruptive innovation in the financial sector can no longer respond to the daily challenges of poor people. Read it carefully. Study it. Envelop it. This will be our charge for the next hour or so. There is a lot at stake in this debate, as our previous sessions have already highlighted so frequently. Has the hype of innovation caught up with itself? Has it run out of steam? Are we getting better and better at doing less and less that is relevant to the actual needs of our clients? Do people actually care about being financially included? Or do they just want a better life? In short, have we drunk our own innovation Kool-Aid while the real world sits merely as an irrelevant sideshow? Or is that the view of intellectually lazy technological Luddites? Perhaps disruptive innovation is our only hope. Are we only at the front end of technological revolutions in business models, in value propositions that will pave the way for hundreds of millions of people to use financial services as a trampoline to a better life? So which is it? Too much so-called disruptive innovation, or not enough? We need to know, and we shall know. We've got an extraordinary troupe of debaters who have volunteered to expose themselves to your judgment and discerning wits. They are people with extraordinary backgrounds in this area. I'm going to ask them to come out now one by one. And each of them, you should give them a raucous round of applause to get them excited about what they're about to do. Arguing in support of the resolution, we have a truly formidable team. Graham Wright is Group Managing Director at MicroSave. Come on out, Graham. And is a prolific writer. He has even written a book, my friends, entitled Microfinance Systems Designing Quality Financial Services for the Poor, which seems oddly relevant to our topic. He will open for his team as the first speaker. His colleague, the second speaker, is Mamie Kalonda. Come on out, Mamie. Now, Mamie has spent her career serving at the frontier of service delivery for the unbanked. Currently as the CEO of Finca DRC, where she was previously the COO after serving for years at Finca in Uganda. Now, just hearing these bios and looking at these debaters, you might feel like this debate is already over. But let me assure you, my friends, that Graham and Mamie, as capable as they are, have no reason to relax. Their opponents are not only worthy, they are hungry for a win. Opposing the resolution is Tamara Cook. Tamara, come on out. Tamara has been at the center of the innovation storm in financial services, currently as head of the digital innovation at FSD Kenya, and previously at that bastion of innovation, the financial services for the poor team at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Tamara will open for the opposing team. And joining her as her comrade in arms is Owureku Asare. Owureku, come on out. He is not wearing pinstripes, but let that not confuse you. He, in fact, is a seasoned executive in the financial industry, currently as a regional head of consumer distribution for Ecobank West Africa, where he leads digital financial service initiatives in more than 15 countries in Central, East, and West Africa. Wow. So this is the dream team for this topic and for this group. We are delighted that they've all agreed to subject themselves to this debate. So this is how we're going to proceed. The first thing I want to do is to vote. So can we get the slide up, please, the voting slide up? Look at the resolution again. Disruptive innovation in the financial sector can no longer respond to the daily challenges of poor people. You will now need all your experience, you will need your sharp intellects, and you will need your clickers, in reverse order of importance. And you will now have to choose whether you are in favor of the emotion, if you are against the emotion, or if you are weak and lazy and unsure. Your choice. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds, but no more. Hit the number and then hit OK. I'm making up that instruction. That's true, right? No one is nodding at me from the booth. Thank you. The people not in the booth are nodding at me, which is also a handful. Thank you. Okay, voting is closed. This is donor-compliant debate. Here's the baseline. Let's get the votes. Wow, 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 wow. I want to start with noting the 10% of you who are unsure despite my commentary. Wow. So Graham and Mamie, you have your work cut out for you. We have a second question we want you just to answer. So we get the next question up, which is, I am open to changing my mind after listening to the debate. So we just want to make sure that there are no dogmatists out there, blind to being reasoned with. So please now vote yes, you are open to changing your mind, or no. And I should tell you now that if the no's predominate, these guys are just going to walk off stage right now. So a good way of wrapping this up early. Okay, vote. Let's see the results. Thank you. Thank you. The debate can carry on. Well done. Well done. Okay. We will remember these numbers because we are going to vote again at the end. It's called an end line for those of you who are not familiar with donor speak. And we will be able then to entirely assess our long-term sustainable impact. Now, this is our plan. There are rules to this debate. The rules are stringent and burdensome, and they shall be enforced without mercy. We will ask the first opening speaker to present opening arguments for 4 minutes. That will be followed by the second team's first speaker, who will also get 4 minutes. The affirmative team will then have a chance to make a second statement that will present more substantive arguments, as well as, if they choose, to rebut any of the faulty contentions put forth by their opponents for another 4 minutes, and then that will be followed by a second presentation from the opposing side for 4 minutes. So they'll each get 2 slots of 4 minutes each. Then we will pause. We will pause and invite all of you into the debate. This will be your opportunity to make a brief argument. Your task will be to participate in the debate. You're going to offer a view of an argument that has not yet been made by either side, or to elaborate an argument that you think has been inadequately made. So you are trying to put your thumb on one side of this resolution or the other. We'll have about 20 minutes to do that. Then we will invite each of the first speakers to offer closing remarks for a brief 3 minutes each, and then we will vote. And then we will finish the debate, and we'll have a chance out of our debating roles to reflect a little bit on what we have learned, if anything. Now, my last comment. I have asked the debaters to inhabit their roles fully, without any regard for their personal beliefs, convictions, or institutional affiliations. Do not tweet out to the world what they say. They will not be held liable for anything they say on stage for the next hour. They are putting their intelligence, agility, and indeed their very reputations in the service of our collective learning, for which we are grateful. Please join me in giving them one big round of applause to encourage them on. And with that, my friends, I will ask Graham to begin the debate. You have 4 minutes, starting now.
I love fintech. Fintech is my life. I use it every day. But I am privileged. I am educated and I am connected. Let's go together to a typical African village. There's no electricity. There's no mobile network coverage. And let's look at the people there. The Economist in 2016 said that only 50% of the African population have access to mobile phones. And the vast majority of those are feature phones. And of those, the vast majority are held and used by men. And those that do have smartphones rarely can afford the data packages to actually use them. And let's look at the people involved. They are, along with 1 billion plus on this planet, illiterate and very often innumerate. They really struggle with the alphanumeric interfaces that are required to interact with the current states of innovation. And these innovators rarely take the time to build the interfaces or the user cases for the applications for poor people. They work for the more affluent. They have little understanding of the needs, the aspirations, the perceptions, or the behavior of poor people. And so the innovations that they produce are typically solutions looking for a problem. Fifth, we must remember, of course, that These people are extremely vulnerable. And I think we can agree that the current state of consumer protection around this disruptive innovation is grossly inadequate. There are millions out there who have lost money either due to fraud or to having sent value to the wrong number inadvertently. There are even more millions now blacklisted on the databases of banks and credit reference bureau for small digital credit loans. This cannot be credibly seen as a way forward to address the real daily needs of the poor. And finally, let us not forget that poor people value personal interaction. We've heard that time and time again throughout this conference. And yet, my esteemed opponents would like to argue that somehow, with technology, they will solve the very, very real problems and the very, very difficult pain points that the poor face in the under-resourced, poor infrastructure, distant villages. They need us to do better for them. They need us to think more clearly and to move beyond the naivety of ignoring the real world and saying fintech will fix it. Thank you.
Well, Graham has thrown down the gauntlet. Indeed, dressed eerily like Steve Jobs, he has told us that innovation is nothing but an amoral and naive force, blind to the aspirations and dreams of the most vulnerable, indeed, even preying on them. Does the resolution have any hope of failing? Tamara, we are in your hands. Your 4 minutes begins now.
Unlike wannabe Steve Jobs, and like 60% of the people in this room, Owureku and I believe that disruptive innovation can respond to the daily needs of poor people. First, some definitions. Disruptive innovation means using technology in new ways to change the way markets work. Financial sector ranges from the microfinance institutions to the fintech to the insurance to the traditional banks. Daily challenges. We're talking about tools that can provide meaningful solutions to help poor people manage day-to-day, invest in the future, and deal with risk. There are 5 reasons, just plus many more, that we believe that this can happen. First, the financial sector has a track record in delivering disruptive innovation that solves problems. Microfinance applied lending technologies in new ways to help micro-entrepreneurs and grow their businesses. Mass retail banks stripped down technology that was meant for high street banks to deliver mass accounts to the retail market. Mobile money took technology that was meant to basically buy airtime, SIM toolkit and USSD, to deliver a solution that helps people send money home to access their social networks, and now is used for a plethora of use cases that directly affect the daily needs of poor people. Pay-as-you-go took bill pay and metered use to deliver assets and reduce costs for people. Digital credit and savings took bill pay plus scoring to deliver new solutions for people. And recent research that we have in Kenya shows that the top uses are for business, farm, and education. Second, the acceleration of the pace of change, creating new opportunities for disruption. In Kenya, it took 115 years for banks to reach 25% of Kenyans. It took mobile money 2 years. Microfinance never reached 25% of the population. Digital credit and savings did that in 5 years. Landlines never reached 25% of the population. Mobile phones did that in 16 years, and smartphones did it in 8. Data released just yesterday predicts that 80% of Kenyan phone lines will be smart by 2022. Number 3, with increased mobile penetration, especially smartphones, increased connectivity and digitation will help us discover new things about the daily challenges that poor people face by being able to monitor what they do with this connectivity and truly create value for people like we heard about with the customer-centric guide this morning. 4, increasing opportunities and incentives to partner with those outside the financial sector. We just heard about this. Banks partnering with people in agriculture, health, technology, other sectors. And in Kenya, there were 70 applications last year from banks to the central bank to launch new products. Almost all of them were across the mobile channel and in partnership with people outside of their normal day-to-day. Finally, new technology is evolving in ways that don't even exist now that are going to help us solve these problems and enable solutions to be more profitable. We heard yesterday about business models that aren't yet profitable. Disruptive innovation may be the only way that we can do that. How can we extend the success of short-term digital credit, which currently helps with daily needs, to long-term investment needs? How can we use artificial intelligence paired with chatbots to inject behavioral science insights and nudges into financial solutions? How can smartphones be used to create new user interfaces for intuitive money management that helps people manage day to day? So, building on these 5 things, we believe that disruptive innovation will continue to respond to the daily challenges of poor people and help and do it in better ways, in more ways than my colleague thinks. Hashtag disruptive innovation delivers value to poor people. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, wow. A tour de force. Does the affirmative team have any arguments left? Disciplined and structured. Tamara defines our terms. She gives us an avalanche of examples, even statistics which were released just yesterday. Can you believe it? And what about artificial intelligence? Won't that solve all our problems? Seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, let us see if the affirmative team can muster the intellectual resilience to respond. Ladies and gentlemen, Mamie, for the second speaker on the affirmative side, 4 minutes.
Many financial institutions, as they are thinking innovation, technology, we are looking at the break-even point. Will we make profits? We want to have a very good business plan seated in a room like this with 4G internet and thinking about what will give satisfaction to those poor in the village. Is that what those poor are looking at? Is it the needs for those poor people in the village? Why do we have so many inactive accounts? We talk about M-Pesa. We have so many inactive accounts. If they give you active accounts against dormant accounts, it is dormant accounts double, sometimes 3 times more than the active accounts. So people, they tend to come in, but this is not really what they want. We need to do better. We need to look at what will really satisfy those people. Technology, yes. Opportunities, yes, they are there. But we need to look at what will satisfy those customers. We need financial literacy. We need the technology literacy as well. Many people have destroyed the financial histories. They are poor. They need to improve their standard of living. But today, because of $2 loan, they can't get back into financial. Some of them, they've become poorer than how they used to be before. So we need to look very closely to what we are doing. Innovation, yes. Technology, yes. Digital, yes. But let's satisfy that customer. Financial inclusion, we need more and more customers to join the network. We are having many poor out there. They are representing over 50% of the active population. If we want really to succeed, we need them to join us. And as we are joining them, we need to understand what is the needs, so that once they are in, they will not get out. Once they are in, they will become more educated, they will understand, they will improve their standard of living, as the histories we saw for the guy from Rwanda, as the history from Catalina in the coffee. We need to educate them. Without education, without financial literacy, you can innovate. But what will they do? They don't have even a simple GSM phone. They don't understand. Some of them, you can send a smartphone to them, but they will end by using it just for calling, receiving calls. That is it. So that means it requires more education. As we are thinking about innovation, as we are thinking about technology, let's think about the base of the pyramids. They need to understand, they need to buy in, and they need really to accept what we are giving to them. They need to trust. They need to transfer it to their children and grandchildren. This is it about a good technology, a good financial inclusion. And if we do it like that, we'll certainly reach what we are looking at today, or these 2 days, the last 2 days. This is what we've been looking at, financial inclusion, bringing more people into the financial sector, and we'll get there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mamie Kalonda. Steadily, gracefully demolishing, brick by brick, the edifice of the argument put forth by her opponents. Innovation, after all, is simply the indulgence of the Kapinski crowd, she says, sitting with your 4G phones and your power suits. What about all the poor people in the world? What about the base of the pyramid? What about financial and technological literacy, she asks in her penetrating and fierce way. Can Owureku save his steam? Only the next 4 minutes will tell. Owureku.
I'm surprised that
I'm surprised that you're...
Technology.
Pause his time. Pause his time.
Technology.
Okay, let's try that again. At moments of desperation, sometimes distraction is your best ally. Owureku will now move back to the substance of your arguments if we can. Ladies and gentlemen, Owureku's 4 minutes starts now.
I'm surprised that after the votes, Graham and Mamie still stayed on. I thought you were going to walk away because for them to defend this, I think it's even impossible. At the heart of Tamara's definition, 2 things came out: sustainability and client centricity. Dario reminded us yesterday, and it was just yesterday, that the poor, they don't need accounts. What do they need? They need shelter, they need education for the kids, access to healthcare, meal for the family, tangible rewards. These are the solutions that digital innovation or disruptive innovation is going to bring to the poor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure these needs are not different from ours. Formaline, a Pan-African company, technology company, empowers the poor with solutions to be able to improve their farm produce. They are touching lives of 200,000 people in 11 countries. How do they do this? They just package information through voice in the local dialects to be able to communicate with these rural folks. Today, they are sending best practice, agricultural practices to them, weather, price, and other details that they need to have to be able to improve on their farm activities. In return, they gather on smallholder farmers' information to be able to understand the needs that they have. They've actually piloted extending loans to these farmers without collateral. And guess what? There's no default rate to it. Invested is a company that has packaged financial literacy content through agents of these rural folks, and they educate them for them to understand what it means to be financially savvy. Ecobank has launched a flagship product called TB4 with MTN mobile money. What does this do? It allows the poor to be able to save as low as, or invest as low as 20 cents in treasury bills. Hitherto, this was the preserve of the bank. PEG, as you know, as a pay-as-you-go solar home energy system. How do they do it? They provide these assets to the poor, and they allow them to repay through a scheduled direct debit from their mobile wallets. I'm sure you are used to this because in terms of your financing, your asset financing with your respective banks, your debits are scheduled and it's debit to account as and when you've agreed to for these debits to go through. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a school in Ghana called Omega Schools. They have what I call pay-as-you-learn model. The whole system has been digitized, and school fees are paid daily, 65 cents on a daily basis. This caters for tuition, hot meals, school uniforms, and assessments. Today, we can talk about utility payments being paid through mobile money. We can talk about even Coffee Broke Man. Those of you who know about Coffee Broke Man, the street seller who sells roasted plantain, accepting mobile money. With these innovations, the needs that I talk about, ladies and gentlemen, I believe have been able to be met through disruptive innovations. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Owureku resurrects his team's arguments and dignity. Yes, he knows you can't eat an account, but with example after example after example, Owureku shows us how disruptive innovation, whether it's in solar energy systems, pay-as-you-learn, even the august Ecobank, he says, has been able to meet real needs. Wow. What to do? Where are we now? Where are the arguments which are the strongest? Which ones are the weakest? Which ones have yet to be uttered? We are now moving it to you. Your challenge is as follows. I'd like you to enter into this debate, but with discipline. Your job is to offer an argument, not a random reflection. An argument. Put your thumb on one side of the scale or the other. Give us an argument that has yet to be made by one of the teams, or elaborate or substantiate an argument that you think has been put on the table but could be further strengthened. Okay, who's up next? I'm going to go down. Can I get this mic working? Who's up next?
Thank you very much.
What's your name?
My name is Sieka Gatabaki, and I'm arguing for the need for disruptive technology.
So you're arguing for Graham's team, Graham and Mamie's team. No, the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think many times when we talk about disruptive technology, we go too far into the future, and we don't look at the past. One of the most disruptive things that happened in technology was the introduction of prepaid airtime. And that's the ability, given the ability for millions of people around the world to communicate. That basic ability has allowed them to access a myriad of services. So gateway use cases such as these are so important for us to meet the challenges of those who are financially excluded. In fact, the point is that the more we look at non-technology interventions, the less we open our minds to the possibilities of technology. Thank you.
For me, it's actually about the demographics of particularly sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's also being driven by demographics in this room, because the poor that we're talking about is a young man who is aged 18, 20, 24, 25. And this young man, I was in rural Tanzania 3 weeks ago, 1,500 kilometers from Dar es Salaam, and they said their highest expense, we were doing some research, and their highest expense was actually the internet and social connectivity. It was higher among men, more male partners than the women's side. They said it's because we have to reach our girlfriends, we have to look swaggy, we have to really be relevant and be seen to understand what's going on. The second thing, when I was living in Tanzania, M-Pesa, before they launched in Tanzania, when they were in Kenya, the women in the remotest parts of Tanzania were already going to the teachers and nurses and saying, my son has sent money to you as airtime credit, as prepaid airtime credit. They invented this. It was them thinking about, how do I get money from Dar es Salaam to here? And they said, my son, buy airtime worth 20,000 shillings, whatever it was, put it on the teacher's phone, and I'll go to the teacher and say, you may need this airtime, but I don't need airtime. Give me the cash. And so they started, actually, the M-Pesa thing started in the rural part of Tanzania, and they were already doing it. By the time the M-Pesa, the Ario M-Pesa landed in Tanzania, the villages understood. So really, if we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, the young people, my daughter taught me WhatsApp. The young people are teaching their mothers the USSD code. They don't know that it's called the USSD code, and they don't care. All they want is the service, and they are being shown by friends in the villages. No, if you want to do it this way, do this, and that's where the world is going.
Wow. But Petronella, wait, don't give me the mic. Petronella, stand up. So 1 minute. So whose side are you on? Whose side are you on?
Tamara cooks.
Oh, Tamara, okay. So this is user-generated disruptive innovation. People are embracing it. They're already there, well before M-Pesa was even there. You look like you're ready. Get up. What's your name?
Sharon from
Sharon.
the Network. I'm going to help Graham and his
You
colleagues.
have to be at least as animated as Petronella, otherwise you'll have to sit down now.
Okay, I'm going to try. I don't think we can talk about just benefits of technology without looking at net benefits of technology. Look at the cost and look at the risk, and I so rarely see it all put together in one. And I think our exuberance for technology is far too great. We're not looking at the risk and the cost to these individuals in a really succinct manner. So half a point up for this side.
Reasonable, thoughtful, nuanced. Sharon says, what about the cost of technology? Graham, there you go. Graham and Mamie, you got a point there. Give us your name, yeah?
Hi, my name is James, and I will join in arguing against the motion.
Against the motion.
And simply from basic logic, if you're arguing against disruptive innovation, it means that you believe the existing tools and systems are sufficient to solve the problem. We know from using our eyes that they are not. And so, absent some other explanation for how you see the situation changing, we need to assume that we need to continue to disrupt the tools and products that we're using to serve the poor until such time as the problem is solved. The fact that it hasn't been solved yet doesn't mean you stop trying, unless you're imagining some halcyon day in the past when using the tools of that period actually solved the issue, which is not the case. So just from logic, without even going into the underlying issues, we need to recognize to deliver services at scale, we need to innovate and we need to disrupt.
Wow, James exhibiting a intimate relationship to basic logic demolishes Graham and Mamie's arguments here.
So I'm on Graham and Mamie's side.
What's your name?
Warenga.
Waleta, welcome.
I learned on Monday that 45% of airtime use from Karibu is on gambling. We have a problem. Another problem we have is digital credit addiction. Yes, we are serving the poor, but we are also making them poorer, and addicted to digital credit from one supplier to another to balance off your M-Shwari, your KCB, your Tala, your branch credit. It's a problem. So the solution is there, but the problem is even bigger for the poor. So I am on that side.
Wow. Take that logic. What about increasing vulnerability, she says? What about gambling? Okay, who's next? Over there. I thought we were kind of exchanging glances and nods, but I wasn't sure if you were just saying I had a nice suit on. There we go.
I'm Dennis. I think we have already made the mistake once in our world to think that financial services and financial transactions were something on their own, and we shouldn't forget that if we are actually just helping things to be exchanged and other things from happening. And these other things matter much more than financial services. So you can get the best technology for helping people to exchange with one another. If they don't have a real thing to exchange behind, nothing really serious is sustainable and lasts very long.
So just to be clear, you're on Graham and Mamie's side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Wow. Introduce yourself.
Hello, hi. I'm also Dennis. We managed to sit next to one another, but I'm
Are
with
there any other ones here? This table is for you.
And I'm with the MasterCard Foundation. This is just for purposes of the debate.
Yes, for purpose of the debate. To the leadership of MasterCard Foundation, do not fire Dennis.
But I don't think technology and innovation will solve our problems. We have had decades, centuries, millennia of technological innovations. We still have poor people. So in my mind, technology and innovation will not solve the problem.
Another extraordinary display of basic logic. We still have poor people. Okay, I'm coming to you next. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Natasha. I work for the Boulder Institute, and for the purposes of this conversation, I'll be on Graham and Mamie's side. 2 points. One, I happen to be friends with one of the co-creators of M-Pesa.
Oh.
And I also happen to be from Bosnia, which is a country of 52% unemployment. So I said to my friend who happened to have participated in the invention of M-Pesa, can you come with me to Bosnia 1 week and let's just leash M-Pesa onto this poor country that has suffered war and suffering and now unemployment. And she said to me, as much as I love M-Pesa, it's not gonna help Bosnia. It's just not a thing that works that way. Argument one. Point two. Yes, there are now these products and services offered on digital platforms. But I beg of you, who has reached scale when it comes to digital, rural credit? Who has reached millions? Other than Ant Financial in China? Anybody else? Talk about SME. Not everybody needs nano credit. If we needed nano credit to top up our gas in our car, okay. But that's us, that's not poor people. Poor people need well-designed SME and ag lending. We can't even do it in the analog world. If the digital people can do it, more power to them, but I'm not seeing the numbers.
Wow. Even the co-founder of M-Pesa admits it's all a mess. Wow. I'm moving to this side. Anyone want to get in? No one? No one? No one? All the way there. Where? Oh, right here. Okay, I'm coming. I'm taking the long route.
This is a tool in favor of Graham's team. I want to support him with some hard data from my home.
With data? Oh my goodness! Let's not go there.
India, someplace I can talk about. So the grandest experiment in financial inclusion on tops of financial technology, the digital ID system that the Indian government launched, they launched a massive scheme to enroll very poor people in opening accounts, financial inclusion. And it was called the Prime Minister's Wealth Scheme. Launched in August 2014 with support from both Melinda Gates and MicroSave. By August 2017, 295 million accounts had been opened. Grandest. Well, the government did the research and said there's 26% accounts that are dormant. Independent researchers put that number at 76.81%. 295 million accounts, independent research, 76.81%. The Indian government's response was to wipe out the data and stop tracking it. So if that's how we're going to get financial inclusion on top of disruptive technology, I rest my case, and I do believe that we should just hand the towel in from Tamara and her team, and Graham, you are the winner.
A tool seeking to bring premature closure to the debate, deploying data, statistics, and evidence. It's terrible. All right, who's here? We got one at the very end here. I'm coming. Introduce yourself, okay?
My name is Abednego.
Oh, use the mic. That's why I gave it to you. Yeah. You have to use it. Yeah.
More technology.
That's better. Disruptive innovation.
I didn't want to use the mic because I didn't want them to hear me. If I use the mic, they will hear me, and they are saying this is not good enough. So please, can you try hearing me without a mic? Then, you see, if technology means different things to different people, You can hear me today because I'm using the mic, which is part of technology.
Just barely. Yeah.
Now, we all came here in cars. Am I right? Nobody walked here. Cars are killing so many people. They are not just making them poor, but they are killing them because of accidents. Every year we buy new cars. Now, a friend of mine ate a food he was allergic to. He had a few problems. Then when he got to the hospital, the doctor told him to stop eating. Now, can you imagine what will happen? The fact that you have problems with food does not mean you should stop eating. Yes, I understand we have not gotten it all with technology. It doesn't mean it is that bad. Once we begin to get it all right, it's going to be far so better. So please, I support the group on the right so that we find ways to make technology make happen what we believe can happen. Thank you very much.
Salvaging the terrible reputation of disruptive technologies. Okay, what else? We've got one over here. Introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, Philippe Breuil from PHB Development. I noticed during the day that the smallholders can get a loan with an interest rate of 100% per month. It's amazing. And at the same time, they get access to a loan, a digital loan for 10%. And some from the left side are still complaining. So I don't understand why you're not so happy about smallholders getting an interest rate divided by 10%. Thank you.
Thank you. So why aren't you? You like 100% interest rates, basically, Graham and Mamie. You love them. Right here? Is it right here? Did you put your hand up? No? Yeah, there you go. I thought you kind of had half a hand up.
Okay, I'm going to preach for Tamara's side.
Okay.
And Owureku.
And Owureku.
Sorry, because I'm bad with names, so thank you for doing that for me. And I mean, I want to respond to the counter argument from Boulder and saying we need scale. I mean, think about the figure Tamara gave us about how much time it took banks to reach 25% of the population. Think about how much time it took for the phone lines to reach what percentage it was, I can't even remember. Now, we're asking digital finance to have reached scale in how much time? I think that's a little bit unfair right now. I think we've done great progress already, and it's true, we don't see the scale yet, but it's probably we haven't fixed all the problems. And indeed, technology, as we continue using it to help us understand some of the issues we might have created with technologies, and some of the issues that we still haven't solved with technology will help us reach the scale. So I think we just need to be a little bit more patient with our technology. I mean, we can click and get information in 2 seconds these days on the internet, and we can respond in an hour to an email. Think of the time, and I'm still of that generation. I know I don't look that old, but we used to use fax.
What?
Yeah. Do you still remember what a fax was? Well, I was born before even we started using fax, and we have forgotten about fax. So let's give a little bit credit to technology and to the space we want to see change, see happen, and let's give credit to poor people. We're asking them to be technological literate right now when they can indeed, thank you, Graham, to remind us that they're maybe not literate and not numerate. So let's be a little bit patient with people. And like Petronella told us, I'm pretty sure their kids will teach them how to use WhatsApp very soon. And that will happen much quicker than what we ever thought. So, voilà. Talk about a little bit of patience.
Speaking against the resolution, what's the hurry? Just wait a bit.
Hi, my name is Sabine Mensah with UNCDF. 3 points I would like to make. I think somebody raised the cost issue. For, let's say, Aminata, who is in a rural area, this is how much it costs her to get a bank account. About 1 hour distance from where she lives to go to the bank, and she's asked to have an account that has a minimum balance that she doesn't even have, and she's told that every month this is how much it's going to cost you to have that money at the bank. And if you are in West Africa, they actually tell you have to pay the bank a fee to deposit the money into the account. So for mobile money, she has a shop that's actually 5 minutes from where she lives. She has a phone, and it doesn't cost anything to open that account. Figure that out in terms of cost for her, the poor. The other, I think somebody else made a comment regarding the activity rate. Yes, it is not where we would like it to be, but it's more than 30%. If you look at the banking rate in West Africa particularly, we're close to 25%. And I'm not talking about the active bank account. I'm just talking about the opened one. Figure that out for the poor. The last thing, somebody made a comment about literacy. I'm really surprised because Graham himself here came up with something called mobile wallets for orality, MOWO, whereas you're using pictures of bills and what you want to do into a phone. And that's what technology can do, especially with the penetration of smartphones. You can make this ubiquitous enough that literacy won't matter that much anymore because we can serve even those customers. So I'm for the group there.
Excellent arguments for speaking opposed to the resolution. Now let's go to Gerhard. I'm sure CGAP has a toolkit somewhere that you published that solves all of our problems on this.
Khalil. Hi, Gerhard here. I was listening to all of this, and I know Graham, in his dark days, may have sort of spoke for the other side, but now I listen to him, and I'm so impressed by their team and their argument that I'm with them. And here's the reason. We are creating waves and waves and waves of people on digital. And more and more and more people are not using it. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are making a few companies rich on the backs of the poor. And we are creating a digital divide that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we see women falling down the abyss of this digital divide. The poor, the real poor, the illiterate, innumerate, falling through this divide. But it serves us, because as long as we have that, we can go on with this game.
Thank you, Harold.
It's a house of cards, says Gerhard, that's about to all collapse. Okay, we've got one last comment before we wrap up, and then this will be the last comment. No pressure, make it good.
I'm Toshoba from Ethiopia. I just felt like the discussion seems to be between artificial intelligence and real intelligence. That's how I interpret it. Now look at that photograph behind the speakers. And from the Mashizer, and basically it looks like it is the village of my mother itself. And the next shop is 25 kilometers from where these people are standing. The question of inclusion in this setting, where literally 70% of Africans live in, between the next shop and where the people are standing, how can we increase yield where the artificial intelligence can become relevant? How would this be possible to improve? What can change that context is real intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Then after that, we can come to technology.
Finally, the expensive backdrop pays off. Thank you for your spirited participation. You've expanded the terrain of issues that the debate is covering, and you have made the closing arguments for both teams virtually impossible. So thank you for that. It is now time for us to invite the two teams to offer their closing remarks. I will ask Graham first, and then Tamara. They've each got 3 minutes to sum up the most salient parts of their argument just before we ask you to vote again. Ladies and gentlemen, Graham.
Thank you. I am absolutely amazed. I didn't realize that SoFI was a religious cult in favor of fintech. I find this quite extraordinary. We've managed to get through these 2 days almost without exception, without mentioning the word poverty, because we're not caring enough, because we're assuming that people have the money, the technology, the capability to use that technology. We make this assumption for what reason? I have no idea. You look at the SOTIA, the State of the Industry report from GSMA 2016, what proportion of these mobile money deployments that we love so much are actually reaching any scale? 12% out of 286 deployments have achieved more than 1 million active customers. Guys, this is a joke. And as they said, we need to think about the very poor, because as Gerrit so well pointed out, if we don't, we are creating a digital divide, because the big corporates that are running these things are paid to give shareholder value. They will simply not attend to the very poor. So get out of the cult and join the development process. Mamie.
Mamie, yield your time. Go.
We have to think about that poor. Don't just think about sustainability. We need to build trust. We need to help them to get out of poverty. And we will not do it sitting here. We have to be with them, understand the needs, and build something that will really satisfy and help us in this financial inclusion journey. Thank you.
Well done. The affirmative side definitely within 3 minutes was able to deploy both their big guns, which was clever and impactful. Are you shaking in your boots, Tamara? Ladies and gentlemen, for the final closing argument, Tamara, your 3 minutes starts now.
I have literally spent half my life in this world called financial inclusion, and I've sat in many rooms like this. There have been many debates over these last 20 years in this financial inclusion world, or whatever it was called at the time. It was poverty versus sustainability. Now it's digital versus not. High touch, low touch, you name it. But they've all boiled down to, I believe, for most of the people in the room, how do we help poor people and how do we help more of them? Both sides were often saying, but if we do it our way, we'll hit more of them. And people over here said, if we do it our way, we'll hit poorer and poor people and we'll help them more. Disruptive innovation, I believe, is one of the only ways, or the way that we have now, that will help us get there. I've done some data analytics over the last 4 debates. Every single time, the person from Kenya loses votes. And I think that's because there's a little bit of fatigue around digital whatever in Kenya. Oh, Kenya, but you have this and it can work that way. It's true. Our possibility frontier in Kenya is further. We're further towards we've got the possibilities of figuring it out and hopefully helping point the way to others. There are risks. My esteemed debaters have pointed that out. But you know what? Disruptive innovation is one of the ways that we can actually solve for those risks. So I want to leave a little time for Owureku because he's going to have the final last word. Can't you just see it? And he's not going to dry up his mic this time, right? Mic drop in a whole new way. Yeah. So I guess what I wanted to say is, those of you in that 60%, stay with us. Don't go. The 10% that aren't decided, please join us. And anybody else, you're also welcome. And finally, I just want to say that I've stayed in this industry for 20 years because I believe that it's possible that finance can make a difference in people's lives. And if I didn't believe that, I might as well quit.
Owureku, you've got 35 seconds.
The fact that when I wake up every morning, I know that I can have access to some funds to work with. In the morning, I can request for a facility, and in the evening, I can pay off. The fact that I know that if I need some funds to be able to support my kids' school fees, I can have access to it. Those are the details that we are trying to talk about in terms of financial inclusion. We don't want situations where people will struggle. Then what's the point? Today, you and I can have access to funds as and when we so wish. That is what we are talking about, bringing people into the financial inclusion space through disruptive innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Owureku. Indeed, I think all four debaters deserve your raucous applause for an extraordinary performance. Now that you've done the polite thing, you can do the impolite thing, because we're going to ask you to vote again. So this is your chance to pass judgment on what you've heard, both from the debaters and from yourselves. So can we get the voting slides up? We're going to ask you two questions. The first one is to revisit the resolution. Disruptive innovations in the financial sector can no longer respond to the daily challenges of poor people. 1, in favor of the motion. 2, against the motion. And 3, I shall not even pronounce its word. Vote now. All right, voting is closed. Let's see the results.
Maintain.
So basically identical, I think. Do we have a little bit of growth in blue? Fewer in the unsure. Someone finally listened. So, and maybe a little bit of movement on blue. Is that okay? Who the heck remembers the first results? Mike, do you remember? What were they? 28.7. So, okay, so the blue got a few votes from all of this. So some of the unsure seems to have moved blueward. Okay, second question. Has the debate changed your mind? Now we will know if these two numbers add up. Vote now, yes or no. Something very funny is going on at that table over there. You look like you're looking at hanging chads or something. Just press the button and then okay. Okay, voting is closed. Voting is closed. Wow. So basically, we do have a bunch of dogmatists in the room. Thank you for that. We are now going to call the debate portion of this conversation to a close. I'm going to release all four of these extraordinary debaters from the parameters of debate. You no longer have to inhabit your positions. You can leave them at the door. You can now just be who you are, responsible citizens of this community. And I want to just spend a few minutes reflecting on the conversation we have just had and the experience of sitting here and trying to inhabit one of these positions. What I'd like to do is actually give each of you an opportunity to offer us what parts of this felt, of your argument to you as you're making them, felt the most comfortable, and which are the ones felt the most artificial? Which of the arguments you made did you feel that you were straining the most to make? Graham.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, being asked to argue against every fiber of my being was quite an interesting experience. I mean, I was thinking, I actually sat on the original steering committee of M-Pesa, so I mean, this is really, I go back a while. But actually, as I looked at and looked for evidence, we're not doing well enough. We really aren't. And there is a very real risk that we're going to create a digital divide. I'm absolutely sure about that. And I think we need to pay attention to it. I think that what technology can do is absolutely phenomenal, and it will allow us to take financial inclusion way beyond just bank accounts, because it allows us to link into the real economy. And I think that's fantastic. But we do need to be very aware that the benefits will not go equally. As I say, I think there's a real train crash going on right now in Kenya with the combination of sports betting and indebtedness. I mean, you know, 10% of the adult population in Kenya are now blacklisted.
Wow.
10%, 2.7 million people are now blacklisted on the credit reference bureaus in Kenya. That is not an achievement. That is not inclusion. It is exclusion. So we really need to pay attention and drive carefully as we move ahead with this innovation. And I'm actually only partly joking when I say I worry that this is becoming like a religious cult. We need to step back and think a lot harder.
There's a danger of idol worship here, right? We're kind of worshiping at the false god on the innovation side.
I just think we're being over-optimistic. Everything is good because it's technology, it's good, full stop, end of. It doesn't work that way.
There's a real anxiety there, Graham, about what our kind of coverage is and the actual costs associated with some of the advances we'd like to cite the most, making vulnerable people more vulnerable. I'm going to actually do this from there because I can't hardly see you. Mamie, what's your view on this? What parts of the argument did you feel were the most comfortable? Which ones did you feel were the most difficult?
Actually, it was difficult for me when I received first the subject because I've been pushing for digital, and everywhere in the company, I'm like, we have to go digital. And when I received it, I was like, what will I do? And when I began to analyze the subject itself, I was like, hold on, there is something to look at. And I wanted to differentiate this mobile platform with the agent banking that we've been doing. I tried to analyze Finca DRC. Within 5 years, we're almost at 40-something, 50,000 customers. But after launching agent banking, within 5 years, we've reached over 400,000 customers. And if I analyze the two and try to make the difference is that touch point. We're having agents that are trusted in the community. Those agents, they create trust. They ask people to come and open accounts. Some people, they're just opening accounts not because of Finca, but because they see a community leader who is being an agent. Right. At midnight, I can go and get my money. If I'm having a challenge, maybe I withdraw money, I'm seeing like the balance is not enough, I can ask question to that agent. And in my own language, he can listen to me and he can help me. That is what is making the difference. So as we are talking about mobile, we have also to build that difference if we want really to succeed. We are talking about Kenya successful experience, but 2 million, over 2 million blacklisted, it's a lot. We have to think about those people. Some of them, they just came in because it was adventure, as the Tanzanian history. No, everyone is using WhatsApp. Let me try also to use it. Then after that, it will just drop. That's why we are having this inactive account. They will come because it is the beginning, but will they stay? And some of them, it will just drop, get out, without knowing that I'm still having a 50 cents non-paid. And because of that 50 cents, it will be blacklisted. Yet there is a bright future for that person. So we need really to think about it. We need to do good partnership, not just go looking for vendors, because the vendor will come and just sell you credit scoring. The vendor will come and sell you the technology. That is it. We need partners. Partners who will understand that as you are going into digital, you are also having that social bit. You are also having that responsibility of client protection. You are also having that responsibility of financial inclusion.
Mamie, just to draw you out a little bit, there's clearly a set of problems associated with the current technological platforms that we've been citing for the last number of years. But isn't the response to high touch or to the vulnerability associated with blacklisting, isn't the response to that another wave of disruptive innovation? I mean, isn't that what we need now, is to innovate against this new set of problems?
I think it is not the response. It is not the response. And what I would like maybe the Kenyan team to begin to think of those 2 million blacklisted. There is something that is needed. Talk to those people. Some of them, they did not know. I'm having an experience in Uganda. At a time, using the credit bureau, we could realize the customer was paying very well with Finca Uganda, but he had a written off loan in another bank. And we're like, we'll not give you a loan. You have to go and pay first before coming to us. What we realized, it was sometimes just fees. Fees on the accounts. He did not pay for those fees, the account went dormant, and at the end they had to write it off. And his history in the credit was just like that. So there is that education bit that needs to follow. There is a need to call those customers to try and get back some of those customers. I'm very sure that they don't want to be blacklisted. There is still room for them to join this financial inclusion.
Thank you. Graham, I'm going to come back to you in a second. I'm just going to get the others in. Tamara, what's your kind of reflect upon the debate for a bit? Do a meta debate for us. What parts of the argument that you were advancing felt the easiest and most authentic, and which ones felt the most artificial?
Sure. Well, when MasterCard Foundation first asked me to do this debate, the proposition was a little bit different. And when they read it to me, I said, ooh, I could argue either side of that debate. And the reason was less about how the actual final one got worded, but more about, is finance solving daily challenges for people? It's less about technology, but is finance. And so I do believe, I really do, that technology is a way to help finance, and disruptive innovation can help finance do that. But unless we actually solve real problems, finance just doesn't matter.
You're asking us, in fact, to take a step back and to ask really this whole community, what is our role in the overall effort to advance quality of life for the most vulnerable? Is that right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, to hum the first few bars of the answer to that, like, what's your hypothesis about what the view ought to be, either after these two days or after your experience as in this sector?
So at FSD Kenya, we've taken a step back from that. Our strategy is called creating value through financial inclusion. And so along the lines of starting with the customer, what we're looking at is starting at the real economy, which Graham just mentioned, and look at what are the problems that are affecting poor people in agriculture, in health, in education, for casual workers. What are those problems, period? And then which of those problems is there a financial solution that might help make those problems a little bit easier and hopefully solved. So that's kind of how we're starting. I also wanted to address some of the risks that we talked about. You know, in my clever 25% of the population thing, what I didn't mention is it looks like it's going to be 3 years before we have 25% penetration on sports betting, right? So there are risks and there are things. I tweeted yesterday some research that we did with BFA on mobile betting in Kenya, qualitative research, and looking at what can we learn from how virally this has grown. What's attractive about that, and how can we learn from that and apply it to finance so that we can have some of that viral uptake for things that actually do solve people's.
I mean, this is really one of the big takeaways from this conversation, and it's been throughout the 2 days, that the innovations that we like to take credit for, have simultaneously unleashed both promising and pernicious forces.
And like I said, I do think that disruptive innovation is the way that we can address some of those risks. And I mean, we're definitely as concerned about the negative listings in the Credit Reference Bureau, but even the term blacklisting is unfortunate because there's no such thing as a blacklist. But because the financial service providers in Kenya do not have the sophisticated credit scoring techniques, their query is there a negative listing or not? Yes or no, it's a binary thing. Whereas our credit scores in a lot of other countries are a lot more smart. And so the 50 shilling listing, you know, a smart score could see, oh, somebody there's something small there. That doesn't mean they should never get credit again for the next 5 years. And so how we make those things more sophisticated to really help people.
Owureku, kind of what's your view on all of this? Kind of what parts of the argument do you feel most comfortable with, and which ones feel like just most strained?
I think the difficult one was to be able to prove that disruptive innovation will be able to impact life positively and scale up.
At scale.
And I say this because Tamara and I used to work together when she was with the Gate Foundation, and I was one managing the grant on behalf of Ecobank. And there are clear milestones that you need to ensure that you meet, and the time is so short. And if you're talking about innovative products or use cases, you need time to be able to really understand the behaviors and the needs of the consumer. And a lot of the time, even currently, what is happening is that the fintechs have funding from all sorts of places, and there's a lot of pressure for them to be able to demonstrate that this is impactful. I think that is a bit that is most difficult. And if there's any part of the debate that was really comfortable for me, I thought that, look, the definition disruptive innovation does not necessarily mean that it relates to smartphones. And even if it does, today, financial service providers are even getting to the point where they are ready to get into sponsored data. They are ready to be able to provide cheap smartphones for these consumers. So I think that is a bit that really I thought that I was very comfortable to talk about. So it's more of providing financial tools than just relating disruptive innovation to smartphones.
Well, I think that's right, Owureku. One of my, in our dying seconds here, one of my own reflections on this conversation was that we did really talk a lot about technology and technological innovation. And one of my reflections was the whole spectrum of other kinds of innovation that we might expect that might also be considered disruptive. I mean, part of the issue is what the heck is disruptive and what's not disruptive. But are there new kinds of value propositions or new kinds of business models or new kinds of arrangements using even existing technology that might help us address some of the issues? And would we all be ready to consider those innovations? Or are we ourselves so now married to the notion of innovation being a technological development on a mobile platform using a smartphone that our repertoire of terrains around which we're ready to innovate has become really narrow. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very grateful. I know you'll join me in expressing our gratitude to these four extraordinary members of our community for superb debate performance, insightful. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the close of this session. Thank you.